Hello there, I'm developing my first game and today I'm going to show you how I was able to turn this dialogue into this. Hi, and welcome to my game dev journey, the series of videos where I'm going to show all my learning process to become a game developer. But before we continue with the topic of this video, I think I need a quick introduction. So, hi again! My name is Vinny, and after finally earning my degree in software engineering, I decided to start pursuing my dream to become a game developer. But even though I'm a beginner, I already had some experience with it. Last year, I participated in the GMTK Game Jam, where I made this game called The Bane of the Shellcrawler. This game is about a hermit crab that needs to hop on different sized shells, and I only had 4 days to make the game all by myself. The game ended up being very simple and also a little bit janky, but I was very satisfied, since it was my first game and I had so little time to work on it. But in reality, there was a game I made even before this one, and it is this game. This is a very simple game that I made so I could learn how to use Unity and how to create new mechanics like talking to NPCs, cutting trees, planting crops, fighting skeletons, and even building a house. This ended up being a very simple farming game that I used as a Unity tutorial for myself, but in the end I was pretty proud of it, so I decided to polish the game some more so I could use it to show people my skills with the engine. But even though I made all these mechanics, there is one skill I really want to show off, and that is my artistic skills. All the sprites that I used in this game is from an asset pack called Sunnyside World. This is a great asset pack, and I highly recommend you to check its page on itch.io in case you are thinking about creating a top-down style game. But even though this asset pack is amazing, I want this game to have at least some art of my own. You see, since I'm graduated in a software engineering university, I have a pretty solid base in programming, but the area that I enjoy the most is the graphic design. I like to draw since I understand myself as a human being, so I'm very experienced with a pen and paper and even a little bit with digital art, but not as much with pixel art. I managed to do some sprite animations and shell designs for my Hermit Crab game, but not much besides that. But since all the sprites in this game are made in pixel art, I think I need to learn how to do it properly. So I started to search where in the game I could put my art in, and I noticed that my dialog box was in a need for some improvement, and that's when I decided to make custom portraits for all the NPCs in my game. So I opened Azsprite, created a new 64x64 canvas, and made this. Well, what can I say? It's awful. I really didn't like it, and even though I hated it, I showed this portrait to my wife and some close friends, and the art got a little praise actually. I don't know if they felt bad for me or if there is some kind of quality in this portrait that I didn't see, but the fact is that it feels very amateurish for me. The colors don't make sense, the outline seems very chunky, and the limited amount of pixels really made it way harder to get the anatomy and shapes correctly. So I thought, maybe the amount of pixels is the problem. So I created another canvas, but this time with 128 by 128 pixels, and ended up with this. Now, there is definitely an improvement from the first drawing. The bigger amount of pixels really helped me to get the proportions right and to create a cuter expression. And even though it's not perfect, like some parts like the ear became too crowded with pixels and the outline still feels chunky, I decided that this art was good enough for my first game. But then I found another problem. The art style from the asset pack is very low on pixels. I would say that it looks like an 8-bit art style. So when you put the portrait in the game, the different styles doesn't match. I was already expecting this, after all, it's two different art styles in one game, but the difference is too big to go unnoticed. Turns out that too many pixels is also a bad option, so I decided to try again with 64 pixels. But this time I studied all the basic rules of pixel art, and I also searched for a lot of reference for my art, and then I finally made this. Now this is what I'm talking about. I don't know about you guys, but I really like this one. By the time I finished it, I was really impressed with myself for being able to have so much improvement with just 3 drawings. I showed it again to my wife and friends, they agreed with me that this was a huge improvement from the first 2 drawings. I got really inspired after this drawing. And now that I finally gained some true confidence with pixel art, it's time to do the portraits for the rest of the NPCs. And this time I decided to record it for you guys. The next NPC to get a portrait is this guy. He's supposed to be just a regular cool dude that is going to teach the player how to cut trees and how to build a house in the village. The first pixel art rule that I used in the next arts is following a simple color palette. The first 2 drawings that I made, I wasn't following any color palette, and that ended up making the colors of the drawing not match with any style. It's like the colors don't speak with each other at all when you don't follow any color palette. So this time I picked a palette with 48 colors, and I decided to only use these colors no matter what. Another thing that I did different from the first drawings is not as actually a rule, it's more like a technique. It consists on sculpting the pixels instead of drawing the outlines of the character. Drawing the outlines is a technique that works better on traditional pen and paper drawings, but not on pixel art, especially low on pixels. It felt way easier to sculpt the pixels, allowing me to have a better view of the shape that I want to achieve in my characters. And now I have finished my second NPC portrait. You can see that I also made a custom frame for the portraits. They are heavily Stardew Valley inspired with this woody, wanted poster-like appearance. And I think it looks pretty good and matches with the general vibes of the game. And now, for the next NPC, we have this guy. So, this character is supposed to be an angry farmer that teaches the player about the farming mechanics of the game. This was a fun character to draw. I think that in this point I began to get more comfortable on creating different faces and shapes, making each character feels unique with their unique noses, eyes and mouths, while still maintaining a consistent art style between them. One thing that I had a lot of trouble with this character was the hair. You can see on the time lapse that I spent a lot of time trying to figure out the hair on this guy. But in the end, I think that I managed to do a pretty good job translating the hair of the original sprite in this portrait, while still looking pretty good overall. And with that, we have another character portrait. Something peculiar about this character is that there's another character with the same hair sprite in his, so I decided to make them twin brothers. To make them different from each other, I made the twin brother have a complete opposite personality, where he's more relaxed and teaches the player how to fish in the game. And since I already had the art for his twin brother, I just had to make a few adjustments on his portrait. To make his portrait, I just had to change the original brother's face expression and the color of his bandana, and voila! So, what do you think? Did I manage to make them look different despite being twins? Now it's time for this guy. With this character portrait, I had my first problem with the limited colors, because I added just 2 shades of red in the palette. And since all the characters in this game have the same red and blue clothes, the 2 shades of red was already being used, leaving no other red to color the hair. This made the NPC feel too red without much color variation. And I'm aware that the follow the color palette rule can be broken sometimes, but I decided to follow this rule strictly for this challenge. So maybe I could learn how to be more smart and creative with the color palette that I've been given. Despite of that, I think the excess of red wasn't so bad at the final result. Ironically, this character will have a dialogue where he jokes about every character in this game having the same outfit. He will even break the fourth wall, mentioning that everyone is dressed like Mario. And another portrait is finished. I have to say that one thing that I'm not very satisfied with this portrait is the hair. Not because of being too red, but because of the shape in general. Ends up that drawing spiky hair in pixel art is way harder than I imagined. But I think that I managed to make a good face expression in this one. One of my favorite expressions actually. So I decided not to be too picky with the hair and accept it as it is, so I would not waste too much time with this one. Next, we have this fella. Now, this is definitely one of my favorite portraits that I made, if not my favorite. The idea with this NPC is that he have a bald complex, and he's angry that everyone mistakes him for a skeleton, the only enemy of the game. This was a very fun portrait to make, because as he have no hair, I could play a lot with the shape of his head, and I think that I made a pretty good job with that. I tried to translate the shape of his original sprite that have less of a round shape and more like a square shape. And I also had to be creative with his features since I decided that he would not have eyebrows either. So I had to draw these exaggerated eyebrow bones for him. The fact that this guy have no hair helped me even with the time that it took to make the portrait. Since I didn't have to worry with drawing the hair, this ended up being the fastest portrait that I made. And here it is, another finished portrait. The highlight for me in this one was definitely the nose. I didn't even think I could create something that could resemble the shape of a nose so well with just a few pixels. This is one of the things that I like the most about pixel art. The capacity of making your mind fill the gaps that the few amount of pixels provide, making you see shapes that aren't even actually there. Now it's time for the last NPC portrait, and it's for this guy. One thing that I definitely learned while making pixel art, and with any kind of drawing style as well, is trusting the process. In the beginning of each portrait, I always felt like the art was looking bad, or at least very rough and unprofessional. But with time and patience, the art started looking better at each step of the process. So, if I could give an advice for anyone who's beginning to make art, is to just keep doing it, despite how bad you think it looks at the start. Trust the process. The art we make never ends up exactly how we imagine in our heads, but that doesn't mean that it looks bad. In fact, sometimes you can get really impressed with how it turns out. I know that I got really impressed with how the portraits turns out, so much that I even decided to make this video. And this is the final NPC portrait. I feel that it ended up looking very good, and it translates very well the appearance of the original sprite, even though his hair color is a little different from the original. But in general, I really like it. And after that, finally, all my NPCs have their own portraits made by me, and I have to say, I'm pretty proud of them. To top it off, I decided to also make a new custom dialog box, so the portraits doesn't seem out of place, and this is the final result. So this is what I worked on the game so far. I hope you liked watching my learning progress in these pixel arts. And I guess this is the ending of the first video of this channel. Thank you very much for watching it to the end. I will continue working in this game, and I'll be sharing the progress here in this channel. And I also plan to starting a whole new project from zero as soon as I'm finished with this game. So if you want to embark with me in this game dev journey of mine, be sure to subscribe and hitting the bell icon so you always know when a new video came out or something like that. I don't actually know how those things work yet, I'm still new in this YouTube stuff, but as this is my first video, I'm very curious about what you think of it. Did you enjoy the format? And how about the portraits? Did you like them? Tell me anything in the comments, I'll be sure to answer them anytime I can. So I hope you liked it, and till next time.